Welcome back everyone to Stauffer Garage, and on today's video I'm going to show you guys how I personally detail the engine bays that I work on. And in the past I've done waterless ones, but this one I'm going to show you guys how I do it with the pressure washer and how I make these car engine bays look like brand new again. You might recognize this car. This is the muddiest Jeep I've ever detailed. It's actually come back for the engine bay clean now, and as you guys can tell, this one has a lot of mud and debris on the inside that we're going to have to clean up. So with that being said, if you're new, hit the subscribe button down below, give this video a thumbs up, and let's go ahead and roll right into this one. Now the first step, even when I do my interior details, is to disconnect the battery, but because we are cleaning the engine bay, it is best and always safest to just completely remove it from the car itself. Now another thing you need to make sure you do is if there's inlets to your air intake box, like this one in particular, or if there's any other components that are sensitive to water, go ahead and cover those up with either a plastic bag or a glove for this instance to make sure they don't get sprayed with a lot of water. Now for some components in the engine bay, you're just going to be using your typical bucket and soap water that you would use for the exterior. And then I'm also using Simple Green, and I'm also using Eagle One all-wheel and tire cleaner as a degreaser. And then I have several different tools, which include the detailing brushes that I sell on my website, foxclean.com. So if you're interested in picking up a set of those, head on over there after the video to pick up a set to, one, elevate your interior and exterior detailing game, but also they work well in the engine bay as well. Now because we are working in the engine bay, that is why I am going with the Eagle One all-wheel and tire cleaner, which is one for good dust buildup from brakes, but also it works well from a degreaser standpoint, and it's safe on all these components. I've never had an issue with it. Once I've sprayed it liberally onto the engine itself, I let it soak for about a minute or two, and then I'm just using the pressure washer to blast any of it off. This is kind of like a pre-treatment, if you will. I try to blast off any of the grease or dirt that's caked on the engine valve cover, any other components now, before I start doing a more thorough detail with the brushes. So you can see here on the valve cover that there's a lot of grease and oil and dirt that kind of gets collected here, and this is kind of typical for this area of the vehicle. But I'm using Simple Green to spray on, and then I'm using my brushes to agitate those areas, get that grease loosened up, and then rinsing it off to make it look clean again. Now for the other components that aren't just dirty and they don't have a lot of grease and buildup on them, I'm just using my bristle brush with soapy water that I would use on the exterior of the car to get all that dirt loosened up and then sprayed off with a pressure washer. Now you might wonder why cleaning the engine bay is important, and for me personally, I like to clean the engine bay because when I work on vehicles, it's always nice to have a clean engine bay to see where leaks are happening, to see where issues are, to inspect the car, look at your belt, look at the different components in the vehicle, to see if you're seeing anything that's out of place, see if anything is leaking, see if anything needs to be repaired in the near future, so that way you're not caught off guard if that happens. And like I mentioned earlier, my detailing brushes are available on foxclean.com for you to pick up as well. I use them in every single one of my details, and they come in handy when it comes to getting to these tight spaces on the engine bay, but also in the interior as well. One other thing I wanted to mention, if you're cleaning this portion of the vehicle, like your brake booster, your brake master cylinder, check for leaks from your master cylinder. Check to make sure all the vacuum hoses are working properly, because your brakes are the most important thing, to be honest. You want to make sure your car can stop, so that way you stay safe and everyone else around you stays safe. So checking those components for any rips, tears, leaks, it's always a good thing to do at this point. Now that the entire engine bay and under the hood is dry, I have my leaf blower that I use sometimes on the exterior of cars, but it also comes in handy here for the engine bay to make sure there's no extra water puddled anywhere and it's all blown out of the vehicle. So that way when we do start up the car after this, everything starts up properly. Now, to spray the engine bay to make everything shine, I'm just using 303 Aerospace Protectant. I've used this on the interior, I've used this on tires, and especially on engine bays, it doesn't give it that greasy finish. It just makes the plastic have that nice, bright, matte finish that it would if it was new. And for the underside of the hood, I'm just coating it with a wax to make sure that it stays protected from the heat that the engine bay produces. And the last component that needs to be cleaned is the battery, which typically doesn't get the kind of love that it deserves, but it is a super important part of your car, so making sure it's clean and making sure there's no leaks is also a good thing to do. Now, after everything was cleaned, I did wait a good 30 minutes with the car sitting out in the sun to make sure any extra water might have been evaporated before closing the hood and then cranking the car and starting it up. And here are the before and after shots, and for everyone watching, you probably don't have as dirty of an engine bay as this. If you do, it's not a huge deal. It's actually pretty easy to clean, so don't be scared to do it yourself. And if you have a less extreme, less dirty engine bay, just using a brush, an all-purpose cleaner, and a microfiber towel, you can get your engine bay looking clean as well. And I want to let everybody know that this Saturday's video coming up, there is a ton of extraction that needed to be done, so make sure you have notifications turned on. Make sure you don't miss out on this week's video coming up this Saturday at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. And thank you guys so much for being part of the Stauffer Garage crew, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.